driveway and that bridge was going. But anyway, then we stayed there for 3 months till the ship was finished. And during the time we were there, we'd go out to the shipyard every day and climb all over it, getting acquainted with the ship and what part of the ship, all the names of the parts of the ship is what I'm trying to say. And we went out there every day, except the weekend. And when the guys were working, we tried to keep out of their way, but I'm sure we probably hindered them by a month or so. I mean, a week or so, in getting the ship done. But anyway, then we went down to San Francisco when we got the ship going, and we stopped went in and out San Francisco Bay, and anchored out in the bay. And they wouldn't let any of us go ashore except the captain and I think the executive officer went. And when they came back, all we stopped there was to get booze for the officers' quarters. And that's a fact. Well, then from there we went to San Diego, and were in port there for a while. And while we were in San Diego, the captain always had a ship or a boat of his own called the captain's gig. And one day the captain wanted to go, or one night it was, he wanted to go over to the officers' club at San Diego Naval Air Base. So he called the crew and he says, "Take me over to the officers' club," which is right on the bay. And so they take him over, and when they came back, of course they were all as green as I was. I had nothing to do with this, and I want you to understand that in the first place. But when they came back, instead of tying the captain's boat to the ship, they tied it to the dock, and there's a considerable tide there, and in the morning the captain's boat was hanging by the rope along the dock, completely out of water. That's how green they were. But anyway, while we were in San Diego, on a Monday morning, we'd go out to sea, and Navy planes would fly out and practice landing and taking off from the aircraft carrier. And then we'd go back in on Friday night. We'd go back into port and be there over the weekend. And we did that for about 3-4 weeks, I guess. And then they loaded us up with a air squadron to take to the South Pacific, which is in the New Hebrides Islands. I don't know whether you know enough about geography to know where it is, but it's a long ways. It took us 18 days to get there. And part of the way we had an escort. Well, at that time, when we first left port, for about a day and a half, I guess it was, we had a balloon, well, like these airships that you see once in a while. If you watch football, you see them. Anyhow, they escorted us out for a while, and then from there on, we were steering a zigzag course. We go maybe 15, 20 degrees off of a straight line, and then you'd go for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you'd turn anyway, it was to dodge submarines. It was the whole theory of it. That's what we were trying to do. Well, we did. Nobody ever threw one at us that we knew of, anyway. And we went to the New Hebrides Islands, and then from there, I forgot where we went now, but I was aboard that one about 14 months. Oh, we had gunnery practice, and I had charge of the 20 millimeters, because that's what I went to school on the starboard side of the ship. and those guns were mounted just under the deck, the flight deck, along a catwalk that was along the side of the ship. And that's where they had the 20 millimeter guns on both sides of the ship. And they were, I think there was about, maybe 16 of them, because the conning tower was on the right side of the ship, so that you've got the whole deck out there for planes to land on. And some strange things happened there. I don't know if you've ever, did they explain to you when you saw the aircraft carrier how they stop a plane? Well, in the deck, they've got about, on ours, I think there was about 6 or 7, probably 6 cables that went clear across the flight deck, and they were above the deck about so far, so the wheels of the plane could roll over them with no problem. And then on the tail end of every plane, there's a hook, and as I recall, it's about that long, and it's got a crook in the end to hook the cable when they land. Excuse me. And this one time when I happened to be up on the conning tower, standing watch up there, and I saw the whole thing, and this plane came into land, and he kind of bounced, and that hook kept bouncing with it, and the hook would just bounce over those cables. And at the forward end of the ship, there's an elevator that brings the planes up when they're going to take off, and an elevator was coming up with a plane on it, and this plane that was landing had his hook was bouncing. Oh, I forgot to tell you. And then just before you get to the elevator, there's cables that go across about the height of the propeller would be if the plane was landing. And anyway, he crashed into that, and just as he hit those cables, the elevator was coming up with a plane on it, and he was going to take off next, and the pilot is already in it, and usually there's a guy standing on the wing as they bring it up to close the hatch for the pilot. And anyway, this plane that came into land, the propeller just cut right through that plane, just back of the pilot's where he was sitting. And I talked to him later, and he said, I said, the next day I saw him, and I said, "How you doing?" And he says, "Well, when that propeller hit that cable, the cable that go to the rear or hooked to the stick that they had between his legs," and he said, "My legs are black and blue here." That thing going back and forth like that. And of course that ended our operation for that day till they cleared it up. And then another time while I was on there, we were taking some Army planes to the South Pacific, and the captain decided that he could maybe get us out of there quicker. In order to, where we were to land them, the planes, the Army planes, they have to put them on what they call a lighter, and then ferry them into the beach, and then they take a hoist and hoist them off, and then they can roll them up to the airport. Well, anyhow, he decided that if he could catapult those Army planes, he could get out of there quicker. Well, the Army planes aren't built for catapulting. And he had the ship's crew rig some hooks on there somehow so he could catapult them, which he started to do, and he got one off, and he took off all right. But the second one, something happened to it. Forgot now what happened. Anyway, it went in the drink. Lost the plane and the pilot both. So that stopped that operation. We had about, I think it was 18 of them, planes aboard that he was going to catapult. But anyway, that ended that story. And then I forgot